back. We're doing part 2, a continuation of this morning. We looked at the topic is natural remedies for balancing hormones. And so I shared the bad news this morning. So hopefully it's going to get better as we go along this evening. And so we're going to be looking at a law of the body that runs through every other law. And it's called temperance. So your hormones cannot be balanced unless you're balanced. Okay? I was just out here in Utah. I saw this rock, 2,000 tons. It's just balanced up there. It's been up there for thousands of years, and no one's been able to push it over. And perfectly balanced. And hormones can't be balanced unless you're balanced, which means unless you're temperate. Okay, so we're looking at temperance because the hormones are synchronized based upon your habits. So we have a 24-hour cycle. We have a natural body rhythms that operate within that 24-hour cycle. And we need to know when to sleep, when to eat, when to exercise. Everything is regulated based upon your habits, right? So if you eat at different times of the day, that means that your body's natural hormones that are secreted to give you an appetite, such as ghrelin and leptin, which stops your appetite, there's dysregulation in those hormones, so you may not have an appetite at the right time. You may eat at a wrong time with the hormones that aren't in place to help prepare the food, and indigestion can occur. So I'm just sharing this with you because we live in a very intemperate society today, all right? And so it behooves us to look at this because a lot of hormonal issues are related to things like late nights, right? Too much stress, too much work, not enough nutrition, too much food. You can eat too much food and be malnourished, which seems to be most Americans today. Not enough exercise, right? Or too much exercise. So everything has a balance. Everything that God has given us that is good for us has limitations of how much to partake of, right? So, I could drink this bottle of water in the next hour or two and it would be a blessing. But if I took it all in one 1 minute interval, it will be hard on my kidneys. I'll be going to the bathroom very quickly. If I took a gallon of it, I could disrupt the electrolytes in my body. So everything has a balance. Too much sunlight, not enough sunlight, too much exercise, not enough exercise, too much rest, not enough rest. Okay, fasting, one of the best ways to regulate hormones. Now, when I'm talking about fasting, I'm not talking about going on a water fast for like 10 days or something. Okay, now, not everyone can fast. All right, so let me explain that. So, for example, some people who have sugar problems, such as type 2 diabetics, you got to be careful with fasting. All right, you've really got to observe them. Now, there's times where you can actually fast a diabetic, and it will work out quite well. But there's times where you don't want to fast, right? And it says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, there is a time and season for every purpose under the heaven, right? There's a time to eat and not eat, and there's, with fasting, it's one of those things that I like to encourage people to do in a way that is beneficial to what they're trying to achieve, okay? So, for example, people with adrenal fatigue, you got to be careful with fasting. Okay. There are some people that can't endure the drop in blood sugar, right? There are some people that will have trouble going to sleep when their blood sugar levels are too low. There are some people that can't stay asleep when their blood sugar levels are too low. But as a general rule, when we're talking about fasting, this is my definition, and this is something that I didn't make up. It comes from some inspired commentary that says, the true fast, you remember, the Bible talks about true fast in Isaiah 58, right? And it is to basically deal thy bread to the hungry and, bring the afflicted to thy house. And remember, the Pharisees fasted 2 days a week. And did it make them any morally better? They still had some health issues as well, and some mental issues and emotional issues, right? Okay. But if you fast, if you want to have a good fast that's physiologically compatible with the body, and then start off with short fasts and skip a meal, especially people with digestive issues. If you skip a meal, people that are trying to lose weight, skip a meal. I don't think my wife will mind if I mention this, but anyway, she used to be 220 pounds, and she skipped a meal at night, and after 6 months she lost 80 pounds, and she's kept it off ever since. And so when you go to bed, this is not a good time to start eating lots of food just before bedtime. It has problems with it can cause dysregulation of certain hormones in the system. So do it wisely and do it knowing your body's limitations, and don't try to force yourself to do something that maybe your body's not ready for. Okay, so if you've never fasted before, don't go on a 10-day water fast. Okay, all right. In fact, if you fast every day, just skip a meal at night, then your body will be in a continual state of helping to repair the body. And I think it's better to be more temperate in how we fast than just do too much too quickly, and it's a bit of a shock to the system. All right, we also need times of rest to help with hormonal balance. And people that work 24/7, and I think this is one of the reasons why, not the only reason, but God gave us rest on the seventh day. Do you know that this is universal, that anywhere you go in the world, your pulse rate is lower on the Sabbath day than any other day? Yeah, no matter what culture, religion, race you are, it's lower. Isn't that amazing? It's like, nature knows when to slow down, right? And if you work 24/7, you have a high increased risk of cancer. In fact, there's a gene called P53 gene, and it's on a 7-day cycle, and the P53 gene is involved in helping with what we call apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, which we need to prevent cancer from initiating, and it's on a 7-day cycle. And people that work 7 days a week, doesn't mean they'll get cancer, but it increases their risk of cancer. So I thought that was very interesting to find out. All right, anyone heard of oxytocin? Yeah. Okay, oxytocin is a nurturing love hormone. So, for those who are mothers here, they probably remember that first time that a baby was put in your arms, your firstborn, and you realize, wow, I've got this new life in front of me, and that new life is stirring up in your eyes, and you just feel this love comes over you. It's oxytocin. It's God's love, and it's a hormone, and that ends up in the mother's milk. It goes to the infant, and that infant, it senses, Mummy loves me. Okay? And so it feels this oxytocin. Well, did you know that you can get oxytocin from other sources besides having babies? That's good to know, isn't it? Yes. Okay. In fact, when the baby leaves home, you may have some oxytocin too. Anyway, yes, giving someone a hug, increases oxytocin, right? It can be a friend, it can be a family member, husband and wife. Also, volunteer work actually increases oxytocin, right? What does God say here? When you deal thy bread to the hungry, bring the poor to the cast out to thy house, seest the naked, cover him, and hide not thyself from thine own flesh. Then, notice that conjunction, then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily. Okay, now we know volunteer workers, people doing benevolent work towards others, humanitarian work, spiritual work, they receive this benefit of oxytocin. Yes. And you know what that does? It gives you satisfaction and it gives you peace. You remember when Jesus was in the boat and he was crossing the sea and the waves were crashing, lightning was flashing, disciples are screaming, water is pouring over the boat, over him, and he's asleep in the back of the boat. See, Jesus didn't have any fear. See, perfect love casts out fear. Oxytocin, when you have oxytocin, you don't have fear. Can't have them simultaneously. You don't have anxiety hormones and oxytocin at the same time. Okay, that's good news, right? And so this means that this even has an impact upon your own hormones. Yes, like stress hormone is one of the biggest hormones to knock out your sex hormones and cause roller coasters. Well, this normalizes it. Isn't that good news? All right, well, let's get on to a few botanicals because I want to share with you some of the things that we have seen work, all right, with hormones. So this is called, well, let me ask you, does anyone know what this is? Red clover, that's right, red clover, Trifolium pratense. Well, did you give the English word for it? Oh, echinacea, I see. All right, we'll get to echinacea, don't worry. It's good in its own sphere. But red clover is very, very effective. Now, did you know Ellen White took red clover? Yes, and it's very good for estrogen. Yes, so if you're low in estrogen, or even high in estrogen, this is helpful for either. Because if you're high in estrogen, it can block estrogen from binding to the receptors. I don't know how the body does this. This is just something I've never seen any science for. But it blocks fake estrogens, xenoestrogens, oestrogens, and it can basically sit in the receptor site, and when there's enough estrogen in the body, guess what? It's no longer needed. So if it's too low, it can help bring it up because it's got natural phytoestrogens. Now, phytoestrogens work differently and have different effects than some of these dangerous estrogens that we get from, say, animal products that can promote excessive growth. So estrogen can promote cell growth and it can cause cancer. Okay, but these do not do that. If you go online and you read let's say you type in Google, you know, the greatest search engine in the world, right? And you say, can I take red clover if I have cancer? What do you think the answer will be? No. No. It could promote cancer because it's estrogenic. Well, not all estrogens are created equal. This has a protective effect. And there is no science that suggests anywhere that red clover causes cancer. In fact, it's quite the opposite. And it's very high in isoflavones, and isoflavones protect you from cancer. So that's good news. Not only that, it's brain fertilizer. these isoflavones convert in the body to brain-derived neurotrophic factors, which is brain fertilizer, increases the synaptic sprouting of the dendrites, and it can help you in learning, in memory, in basically expanding your brain capacity. Isn't that amazing? You're not the only one, sister. Okay. Yes. Now you may think this is just isolated for women. Men can't benefit from this. We could grow breasts and that wouldn't be nice. But it doesn't do that, thankfully. But secondly, it can help with prostate cancer. Yes, it can protect you against enlarged prostate. In fact, this is one of the ways you can bring the PSA levels down, is using red clover. It's amazing. It's also a good circuitry herb. It's very good for the heart. It's also very good for the blood. It's a natural blood cleanser. And also, it helps thin the blood. And it's good for thyroid health as well. And what else is it good for? It's good for nutrition. Yeah, it's a nutritive herb. Yes, it's good for the immunity as well. Yeah, so red clover. You can, yes, or you can make a tea out of it. So if you see this, I think you should have this growing. Because we have this in, yeah, I think you should have this growing. So you can pick this wild, just make sure you know it's red clover. And wash it, make sure a dog didn't beat you to it. And then you can make a tea out of it. Yeah, isn't that good news? So, okay, so if you pick it, any herb you pick wild that's fresh, you could double the dose because of the water content. If it's dry, you know, like a tablespoon is what I would use. Tablespoon per cup. If it's fresh, 2 tablespoons. Okay, and it's very it tastes very, very nice actually. Yeah, if you want a good tea, I don't think I brought any with me, but we use red clover. We use we call this Lee's anti-aging formula. Okay, okay. So I borrowed it from someone else and just changed the name. Okay, so it's got red clover. It's got some peppermint. It's got some licorice root, and it's got some goji berries, and some shoshander berries, and a little stevia. And it tastes out of this world. Very good for stress. Just relaxes you, can help prepare you for sleep, and it's very, very high in antioxidants. And it just out of this world. So this is an excellent one, and it's good for hot flashes. I forgot to mention that. Yes. Now, some people get hot flashes from a drop in estrogen. Some people get it from a drop of progesterone. So it depends on what is the cause of that. So estrogen helps regulate body temperature. It's used to help control body temperature. So that's why, you know, when you drop, you know, menopause, that can happen. So there are other things that can help with hot flashes. In fact, we're going to get to that in just a minute. So for those who are worried about breast safety, isoflavones have estrogen properties, and risk of promoting cancer was raised by concerned scientists. Okay, new data support the concept that dietary factors such as phytoestrogens may have an impact on the sensitivity of breast cancer cells to vitamin D3 analogs and protect breast cancer cells from proliferation. Okay, so it seems to suggest that the phytoestrogens contribute to protecting from breast cancer instead of increasing the risk. Okay, so anyone can tell me what this one is? This is, yeah, that's a good guess. Yes, so Vitex or chaste berry. Okay, it's got other names like monk's berry, monk's pepper, cloister pepper. They used to give it to monks actually in monasteries to control their libido. Anyway, I don't recommend this. I don't recommend this for men generally. If you want to know more specific information, come and see me. I'll tell you, but not live. This is going around the world, so. But anyway, this is great for women's issues. So we got onto this years ago. My wife had terrible PMS issues. At 2 weeks out of the month, she started getting on Vitex, and then the PMS went away. So that was a blessing. The cramping, mood swings, it's not great what women have to go through with PMS. So this is a really good hormonal balancer. It's also very good for tender breasts because it can lower the prolactin levels. Also, it is good for fibroids, endometriosis, PCOS, infertility. So one of my favorite text messages I get is from new grandmas, okay, that have bought it for their their daughter-in-law, and they send me a text to tell me they've got a new arrival coming into the world, and that sort of thrills my soul a little bit there. But this is very good for ladies who are infertile because it helps to normalize the progesterone. So how it does that, it's a little bit of mystery, but they say it works on the hypothalamus pituitary axis that controls all the ladies' reproductive hormones, gonadotropic, follicle stimulating, and luteinizing hormone. And it's luteinizing hormone that stimulates the release of progesterone. And from progesterone you get all the other hormones. So this is not progesteronic in the sense that it actually contains progesterone, but it helps the body to regulate it better. Okay, so that's the good news. And as I was sharing with you before, that once you start introducing hormones into your body, you're the one that now has to regulate. And so if you can help to improve the mechanisms that can balance the hormones, then you can hand that baton over to nature, and it can regulate it far better than what we can. So Vitex is a very good one for that. And I could tell you stories all day about Vitex. It's just a phenomenal herb. Highly, highly recommend this. And men should be taking notes on all these hormonal herbs, okay, because they have very powerful effects. Now, if you don't want to get pregnant, do not take Vitex. Okay, that's my disclaimer. Okay, I've had ladies call me. I had one lady from California call me one time. She wanted to get pregnant. I said, "How old are you?" She said, "I'm 65. Oh. Yeah. I said, well, if you get pregnant, you know what if it's a son, you know what to call him, Isaac. Anyway, I can't say it will work for everyone, but we've had pretty good results so far with people that I don't know. Maybe a husband banned her from calling me. I don't know what happened after that. Okay, black cohosh. Okay, black cohosh is an excellent one for night flashes, hot flashes. Okay, it's progesteronic, and also it is very good for just helping with menopausal type symptoms. Now, I must tell you this, that for 5% of ladies, they could end up with a migraine taking black cohosh. So just go easy. You may want to start, if you're going to use this, on a low dose before you commence with that. And then also cramp bark. Now, this is the tree, but you don't actually eat the berry, just to let you know. It's actually the bark, cramp bark. Anyone heard of cramp bark? Yeah. Okay, so didn't work, really? Did you do a decoction out of it?
Yeah, I did a tea.
How much did you have?
Exactly what it told me to on the packet.
Oh, it was from a packet?
Yeah.
Oh, no wonder you didn't get results. Okay, from America. Okay. Okay, no wonder it didn't work. Fresh organic, okay. Well, let me tell you something about herbs. If you buy herbs, it's the far better way to use a herb is if you can get it from your backyard. That's number one. Secondly is get it from growers that you can trust, because a lot of growers you know, that you buy from, well, actually a lot of companies, I should say, you buy from, they store the herb for a long period of time, and when you get the herb, it may be 5-10 years old. All right, so it could lose its potency. So if you buy a herb, there are 3 ways you can tell if it's potent or not, okay? So I'm going to give you, you need 3 specialized pieces of equipment. One is a good nose. So it should have a strong odor. Secondly, it should taste very strong. Okay, no, not all bitter. It is bitter, yeah, this one is bitter. Thirdly, it should have vibrant color to it. Okay, so if it's pale and vibrant color, yeah, if it's lost its color, it's lost its phytochemistry. Okay, so roots, berries, and bark have a shelf life of about 5 years. If they're a powder, they have a shelf life of about 3 years. If they're a leaf or flower, they have a shelf life for about 1 year. Okay, so this is important to know because, you know, I used to have to throw away lots of herbs, and it was very painful, you know, having to go through. These things are not cheap, you know. You buy sometimes a pound of herbs is $100, and you're throwing away, you know, just tens of pounds of these at a time, and maybe 50 pounds. And yeah, it's just not nice to see them go to waste. So I thought, what can I do to help the situation? So I ended up getting specialized containers, and these containers, they help preserve the herb. So I'll tell you the name. You can get them direct from the company themselves, but I use what's called Tightvac, T-I-G-H-T-V-A-C. And what they are is they're these black, I think they're a type of plastic container that has a valve on the top, and basically when you put the lid on, it sucks the air out. Now there are 4 things that will destroy a herb quality. One is heat, another one is oxygen, another one is light, and another one is moisture. So what I did is I put them in these containers that sort of suck the air out, and of course they're dark, so it keeps the light out, and then they have these little moisture packets in there that keeps moisture out, and then you keep them in temperature below 74 degrees. And you can prolong a herb for like a lifetime if you know how to preserve it properly, okay? So I never have to throw away herbs again. And when you open it, it's really strong smell, you know, it's really good. So I never buy herbs from stores. When you go into like a health food store, you see they're often in a glass or plastic container that's see-through. And you know, light will destroy every property of a herb within about 3 months. Yeah. So it's best to get it from your backyard or get it from somewhere that really knows what they're doing. I buy from a company called Mountain Rose Herbs. And I drilled them on what they do with the herbs and how they preserve them and store them, and I was very, very happy with the quality. It's been very good so far. So I use them. I use also Star Wars Botanicals sometimes. So anyway, that's just some guidance there, because maybe you use a herb and it's maybe its vitality is gone, and you think, well, the herb didn't work, but maybe it was the actual quality of the herb that was lacking, right? And then there's all these supplements that you get from the store that often don't even have one of the original ingredients in there. In fact, there was a study done out of New York showing that over 60% of supplements actually don't even have either all the ingredients, or many of them don't even have any of the ingredients that's listed on the label. So just be aware about that, because this can cause problems. Now, now let me explain something to you that give you a little bit better understanding of how to use herbs intelligently, because if you use a herb for the wrong cause, you may get zero effects of that. Okay, so let me explain what I mean by that. Let's say you're using a herb for insomnia, okay? And there are over 100 different causes to insomnia. There's over 100 different herbs you can use for insomnia. So how do you know what herb to use for that particular case? So what you try to do is, if you can't ascertain the cause, right, you just don't know, then at least find out what system is being affected by that. Okay, so is it related to stress, nervous system? Is it related to muscle tension maybe? Is it related to digestion? Is it hormonal? Do you think it could be hormonal? And then you can use the herbs that correlate to helping regulate that are good for sleep. Does that make sense? All right, sometimes it takes a little digging, a little probing to really get to the bottom of that. All right, so ashwagandha is another good herb for hormones. Now, this is particularly good for people who have high stress levels. Okay, so this has been studied extensively. There's been over 50 reported benefits to ashwagandha, and it's very good for the neuroendocrine system. Now, it can very much help the adrenals. There's adrenal exhaustion, adrenal fatigue, and it can also help with the thyroid if there's hypothyroidism that's related to stress. And as I was sharing this morning, one of the primary movers of that is stress leading to T3 dysregulation. And so ashwagandha, it helps mitigate the cortisol levels. It keeps them in a stable place so that there's not that inflammation that's triggering that response. So ashwagandha is extremely good for adrenal issues. Now, how long do you need to be on these things? I always tell people, as long as you need them. Now that varies from person to person because everyone's physiology is different, right? So what may work quickly for you may take a longer time for someone else, but you don't have to be on them the rest of your life, okay? So these are God's little helpers to give us a little kickstart to get back where we need to be, but don't think, well, I have to be on this like a medication for the rest of my life, and because the good thing about herbs, let me tell you something about this is amazing, right? The longer you take a herb, the less you need of that herb. Do you know why? Because the body is taking up the minerals, the vitamins, and the phytochemistry, and it's storing some of those. The longer you take a drug, the opposite happens. The more you're going to need. Okay, and so it says in Psalm 103 verse 14, God gave us the herb for the service of men. Actually, I think I got that wrong. Psalm, what is it? Did I say 104 verse 13? Someone just check on that. Or 14. Anyway, it says God gave the herb for the service of men, and the word service means ministry. It means ministry. So they minister by giving. That's what they do. And they give their antioxidants. They give their minerals, right? And this is like what Jesus does, right? I tell people, herbs are like Jesus. They're often the last resort. Right? I get a lot of people come to me when they've done everything else, and they're like, oh, I don't know about this, but, I'll give it a try. Right? And they're universally accessible, and they're within the reach of everyone, right? They're all around us. And what do? We just tread over them, we mow them, we spray them, we dig them up and burn them. And often they're the greatest blessings, But what do we do to Jesus? Didn't we do a similar thing? All right, so maca root. Okay, maca root. Now, this is hard to find as a root. Usually you'll find this as a powder, and a lot of people add this to smoothies. All right, now what is maca root good for? Boosting energy levels. Does anyone need a little extra energy? Okay, well, don't take this at night. You got to take it in the morning or around lunchtime. It can be any time of the day except night, right? Because it's a stimulant. And it improves the mood, enhances sexual health, so increases libido. It helps treat fatigue, depression, all right, improves cognitive function. It treats sexual dysfunction, increases energy, balances hormones, improves fertility, helps reduce symptoms of menopause. Now, this is one that can be used for both men and women, all right? And this is very good for the adrenals as well. And it seems to work fairly quickly, actually. And this is something you can take on a, you can add this to a smoothie if you want. Some people make a fruit smoothie and just put it in, or a vegetable smoothie. And it doesn't taste too bad. It's palatable. I mean, it's at least not obnoxious anyway, put it that way. All right, another herb that is highly recommended for the liver, we talked about this before, but milk thistle. And milk thistle can really help the liver, and it's not just good for poisonous mushrooms, it's not just good for the prevention of cancer, but it also helps with the with protecting the liver, and it can even help the liver to function better. And I mentioned the liver yesterday. Fatty liver is one of those things that is very common to American adults. And so milk thistle seed can help with the liver, because one of the functions of the liver is to do with hormonal regulation. Okay, and so the milk thistle can possibly help. Is that rain? Wow, it's raining. Okay, so milk thistle seed. You want to get the seed, and but don't just chew the seed. It has a very tough capsule to it. So some people get it as the powder. We prefer to use the extract. All right, now I don't want to leave you men out of the hormonal equation, but saw palmetto. I was just down in Florida the other day, and they have saw palmetto, very common down there. They have these spiky leaves, serrated. You've got to be careful you put your hands in there. It can sort of lacerate you. But those little berries there, they are full of powerful compounds that can really help decrease the swelling of the prostate. All right, when the prostate enlarges, all kinds of problems can occur because the urethra goes right through the prostate, and so you can end up with problems with urination, sexual dysfunction, and of course, prostate enlargement. It doesn't, if you're going to get a cancer, prostate, I mean, not that we want any cancer, but it's a very slow, progressive cancer, prostate. Usually people die from heart disease before they die from prostate cancer. But it has unpleasant symptoms associated with it. Now, most men over the age of 50 tend to have enlarged prostate. Okay, so this is something you can take to help with that, protect. You know what often causes prostate issues? Is that 5 minutes? Oh, okay. You had a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is it that they try to lower testosterone?
Why is it they try to lower testosterone? That's it.
What's the whole?
Yes, well, they think that testosterone feeds the cancer. Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, we have a different understanding of that. But anytime you take statins, you're usually going to have, as a man, you're usually going to have problems with the prostate somewhere along the road there.
I have a question, Rosie.
Yes.
My dad has a large prostate.
Okay.
And he is waking up all the time.
Right.
Like every 30 minutes to go to the bathroom. So it's disrupting the sleep,
Yes.
which is totally missing.
Right.
What would you recommend?
Yes, so for your father who has problems with prostate and going to, I'm just repeating this for the camera, for urination at night, saw palmetto is a great one to do that, because it's going to decrease the swelling. Another thing that I recommend along with that, which is really good for the prostate, is red clover, which I mentioned before, and also nettle, stinging nettle is another one. And then also pau d'arco. Pau d'arco is often used in cancer prevention, and so that can help reduce the inflammation as well. And if you want to go, if you want to go the extra mile, you could also add some turmeric to the mix. All right? So these are adaptogens. So adaptogens, most adaptogens are actually roots, but there are some exceptions to that. In fact, we have some berries here as well. Okay. Did you know that even aloe vera is considered an adaptogen? There's even certain mushrooms that are adaptogenic as well. There's 3,000 different types of mushrooms. There's 700 edible mushrooms, and there's a few dozen good medicinal mushrooms. But these all help with the stress response. Okay, so adaptogens are herbs that help usually mitigate high levels of cortisol. They help reduce inflammation. They help resist the effects of stress. They often help with sugar regulation, and they're very good for protecting effect to the neuroendocrine system. So some of these also help with the mind as well, and the mental stress. For example, like rhodiola. So a lot of athletes use rhodiola, and it helps them to sort of get across the finish line. It helps them also with the mental stress. Just don't take it at night. It is a stimulant. Some of these things are stimulants. Now, not all stimulants are bad. Some stimulants are good. They have a tonic effect, like ginseng, like eleuthero root, licorice, and ashwagandha, rhodiola, things like that. But they don't act like caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant, but it's enervating, it whips the adrenals, it affects adenosine receptors, it keeps you awake, it keeps your mind racing, it can give you heart palpitations and all kinds of problems. So the adaptogens, they help your body to resist those effects of stress, and in fact, they themselves, get this, have gone through stress. Okay, thank you. They've gone through a lot of stress. So these are all adaptogenic herbs. You want me to list them all? Okay. So we have things like reishi mushroom, we have things like aloe vera, licorice root, bilberry, turmeric root, ashwagandha, rhodiola, shashandra berry. We have some ginger back there. We have some holy basil or tulsi. What else do we have there? That looks like Panax ginseng there. Sorry, I don't have a pointer, so I'm a little... I do? Oh, okay. That's at the top. Oh, is this one here? Oh, there we go. Oh, it doesn't really reflect off the screen there. Sorry. Anyway, if you want, I can identify them one by one. Come up to me after, I'll show it to you, but it will take a while to go through each one. But yeah, they're all there's 26 true adaptogenic herbs, but there are others that are called adaptogens but aren't real adaptogens. But you know what the best adaptogen is? A dog. Okay. No, the best adaptogen is Jesus. Yes, the best adaptogen. In fact, it says in the Old Testament, I think it's in Isaiah, he was a root out of dry ground. Do you know what a root out of dry ground is? Adaptogens are roots also out of dry ground, and they're stress plants. And they basically, if you've got a root in dry ground, it's very stressed. And it creates more of these phytochemicals that help combat the effects of stress in your physiology. So when you take them, the stress that they've been under actually transfers over to protect you. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So the stress, it says, by his stripes we are healed, meaning by the things that he suffered, he is able to now transfer his healing grace to us, because we know that whatever we've gone through, He's gone through much worse, right? And that gives us medicine, spiritual medicine right there. Okay, so we've got a couple of minutes left, and maybe we'll open up for questions. I need to repeat your questions for the people listening on camera. So if you have any questions, now's a good time. Yes, Tom.
For the red clover, you're just taking the red.
You take the top. Now you can also use the leaf as well, but the tops have more medicinal properties than the leaf. Yeah. Yes. Yes. What roots can you eat? Well,
Good for you from the soil.
that are good for you from the soil. Do you mean like roots like foods or medicinal? Like the ones we just saw there? So, I mean, all of them have their place, right? So all the list I mentioned off, I mean, there are more than I listed off, but some of the really, I'll give you some of the best ones that we use. So ginseng, eleuthera root, licorice root, which isn't licorice from the store, by the way, ashwagandha, rhodiola. Those tend to be the ones we've used the most. And when you say eat them, they're not something you can just grab and just chew. It's something you have to really cook. I mean, you can eat something like a ginger, for example, right? But they're not like flavor enhancers usually. They're more things you have to decoct and or turn into an extract. Yes, ma'am.
What about licorice root for people who buy the licorice?
Yes, well, licorice root has, for people with blood pressure, licorice root you have to be more careful about. I'd worked in a lifestyle center in Georgia. I remember one lady, she had 3 cups of licorice tea. Her blood pressure went up 40 points after that. So that was 3 cups of licorice tea. So it is a sodium retainer. So that's what causes a retention of fluid, which elevates blood pressure. So if you've got high blood pressure, you may want to be more careful about using licorice. But licorice is great with many other things. I mean, licorice is one of those rare herbs that sort of falls into all kinds of different categories, right? So it's bitter, it's sweet, it's an astringent. It's also an aromatic. It's an adaptogen. It's helpful for digestion. Some people think it's aphrodisiac. I don't think so. But anyway, it's got properties in it from every different category of herbs, major categories of herbs. So it's pretty unique. So licorice can be used for all kinds of complaints. Yes, Stephen.
Does American licorice have that much quality?
Not the ones you buy from the store.
Okay,
the wheat, not the licorice. I'm just talking about the candy here, which doesn't have any licorice in it. Yes, it's fine. It's not politically biased. So even though it's in American soil, it's okay to use. Okay, as long as you got good soil. Okay, a lot of these things can grow in even rough soil, like not necessarily the best. In fact, it's not the best thing to do is to pamper the herbs and grow them and put all this organic matter and just, protect them like your child in custody type of thing where you just, shelter them from every single thing that can go wrong, because nature has a way to work to intensify when the plant goes through a little stress. It's good for us to use it as medicine. So sometimes it's better to actually get it from the wild. In fact, most of the time it's better to get it directly from the wild as long as you know what you're doing. Okay, so, all right. So yes, we're going to close. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless. Let's close in prayer. Father, thank you so much for this time, and we pray that you'll help us to become intelligent in the use of these things so that our hormones can be better regulated. We pray in Jesus' name.